This is the Inspection Pro Joe podcast, where we break down everything you need to know to grow a successful home inspection company. Join hosts Joey and Jake as they share insider knowledge and chat with the industry's best on how to take your business to the next level.
All right, welcome back to Inspection Pro Joe. Today is another episode where unfortunately we don't have Joe with us, but we do have Rob Lemoine, owner of Residential Inspector of America. And I'm very excited to have Rob on today, as Rob is someone that I met at IEB, and he is just the perfect person to have talking to us today about mindset, leadership, growth, and getting out of the field. Rob, it's very nice to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome, man. Love being here. Thank you.
So, Rob, to get into it, I want to first start off talking about how you got into the industry so we can understand a little bit more about you, where you come from, and then be able to track that growth.
Okay. Yeah. So I am actually the son of a home inspector. So I was brought up in this industry. So I have a lot of respect for what home inspectors do. I love the industry. I want to protect the industry. I like to say that I've pretty much done every job that you can do, or every job that's available in my company right now, I've done at some point. I didn't do it at the high level that's being done now, but I did do it at some point. And so I started following my dad around in 8th grade, doing home inspections, and checked windows and doors, and I typed reports for him, things like that. And that's how I learned the business back then. And I'll give you a funny story how residential inspector started.
Please do.
So we lived in Louisiana, and my dad was a home builder, and things weren't going too well for home building at that time, late 80s. And so he moved to Atlanta to take a job at the Federal Reserve Bank, processing checks overnight. He was a manager of the Federal Reserve. My mom was a school teacher back in Louisiana, so we stayed in Louisiana to finish the school year, and then we moved in the summer to join my dad. And my dad was doing that at night, but he has an entrepreneurial spirit, and he wanted to get back into something. He didn't know what it was, but he ran across this guy that had a home inspection business at that time. And back at that time, home inspection was all just one guy in a truck. That's what it was back at that time. A very young industry at that time. And he comes to me and he says, "Hey, I just bought a home inspection business." I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, and you'll never guess what the guy's name is." And I said, "What's his name?" And he said, "His name is Dick Sweat."
Are you serious?
And I said, wait a minute. Is that a condition you have, or is this the guy's name? And he says, "No, this is the guy's name." And so he bought the business from Dick Sweat, and he's going and doing inspections. And people are thinking that my dad is Dick Sweat. At that time, there's no internet and websites and stuff like that to kind of see who's coming out to the home. And so my dad, he tells me the story. He goes and makes the final payment for the business. He was making like monthly payments for the business, and he goes and makes the final payment. He takes the check to the guy's house, knocks on the door, and to the door comes a naked lady, and he hands the check for the business to this lady, and that lived in Dick Sweat's house, and it was his wife, and she was a stripper at the old Gold Club in Atlanta. And so I like to say, like, everything that RIA is and what we've done, all was born from a guy named Dick Sweat.
Well, first of all, thank you. That was the best story that's been told on this podcast. I never would have expected that. Wow. So I love it, because that was probably unbelievable marketing. When people assume that they had Dick Sweat coming to inspect their house, they probably loved it. Yeah,
he just went with it at the time, and then eventually he made a name for himself and started getting the business going a little bit. And he hired my cousin, so he had an inspector. And then when I came out of I worked for him a lot in high school. So did Kat. We did things behind the scenes. We set up the very first database to track real estate agents who were using us. It was in Microsoft Access. We did that in my college apartment. He would grab all the business cards off the counter at a listing, and he would give them to us in a shoebox every weekend, and we add them all into the system. And that's how we started tracking agents. And we called that system Backbone. So that was the backbone of the company for a long time. And as I got out of college, my dad was like, "Hey, why don't you come work in the business?" And I did. I had a marketing degree from the University of Georgia, and so I came in and started doing marketing at that time. And the business started to grow. And when it started to grow, we're like, okay, we need inspectors. But at that time, we didn't really know how to go out and hire people in bulk like we do now. And so I went out in the field and started doing inspections. And 10 solid years of doing inspections later, it was when I finally hung it up as a field person.
Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things I definitely want to get into is how you're able to get out of the field. Just something I want to touch on real quick that you said, Microsoft Access being the backbone of your business at that point. And, a lot of inspectors tell you, go get these business cards and collect them. But I think it's the next step of getting it out of your head and having it on the card and putting it into a database that you're building, that you're able to access and use. Can you just speak to how powerful that is for a business, from getting it out of your head and onto paper and into a usable database?
Yeah, so back then it was really elementary, right? So we're just getting names and phone numbers and email addresses for those that had email addresses at that time into the system, and then we're just manually tracking. Okay, this agent used us on November 15th, and she hasn't used us since September 12th, and we started to track that and started to see patterns and what agents are using us, which ones aren't, and then, hey, why don't we pick up the phone and call the ones that haven't used us in a while? That was like revolutionary at the time. And now we're putting people into modern CRMs, and it's automated and things like that. So it's taking nowadays it's taking today's technology, the automations, and marketing, and doing your growth strategies faster, and with a CRM that'll deliver a large amount of data and context out to the marketplace quick. So now we're touching agents faster than we ever have, and we're touching thousands and thousands of agents on a weekly basis with our marketing strategies.
Wow. So I love that, the power of collecting as much data as possible to empower your decision-making processes. So when you're in the field for 10 years and you step out of it, what's the inflection point where you make the decision yourself that, all right, I'm getting out of the field and I'm taking this to the next level? What was it that caused that paradigm shift?
So I think mine was a little different than your normal guy trying to get out of the field so he can work on his business, and so there's a lot of guys that are in the field now, and basically, they most home inspectors start because they were a technician somewhere. They were a construction guy, they were an HVAC, they have plumbing knowledge, whatever it is, and they come into home inspection one way or another because it looks and feels easier than those professions where you're using a tool, or you're swinging a hammer or something like that, and you come into home inspection, and all you did was create another job for yourself, right? So you have a business, but you're the employee of the business, and it's hard to cross that bridge and get out of the field when you're that one man guy. And I think if you boil it all down, it boils down to ego. I can't find anybody who can do it as good as me. I think that statement right there holds a lot of businesses back. I can't hire anybody because they won't do it as good, or they're going to mess it up, or I'm going to have to worry about what they're doing, all those kind of things. That will hold you back in business, big time. So I think you get ego out of the way, and you can start to figure out how to move yourself out of the field, where you can actually build a business of impact and influence. And that's what it's about. It's not about seeing how many inspections you can do or how good of an inspector can I become. It's not about that. Mm-hmm. Right? It's about building a business that impacts others, and you allow others to have a bigger future because of what you're building. That's what it's all about. And when I came out of the field, we actually started a pest control company. And in 2007, late 2007, we started a pest control company. And so I was burned out on home inspection. It was 10 solid years, working 6 days a week. I was a young guy, so I was making a lot of money doing that. But I got to the point where I was like, I just cannot do this anymore. I was just burned out. And so we had a pest control company up and running, and Kat and I kind of broke away from the home inspection business at that time to run that company. We ran that company for 7 years and sold it in 2014. I think that's kind of where I got, my business chops. We learned a lot of lessons during that time period. We learned, and now looking back on that time period, there's some things that we learned that are influencing the decisions we make today. And they were really important lessons. And there was those things that we look back and we're like, hey, we sold it because we just wanted to get money. But that's not really why we sold it. We sold it because we didn't know how to develop people. We didn't know how to develop leaders. We didn't know how to bring people into our world that can push the business forward. We just didn't know how to do it. Yeah. And we got to a point in it which in turn that overwhelmed you as a business owner, and you're like, I have to do everything. I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed and everything else. And then somebody comes along and wants to write you a check for the business. You're like, oh, okay. And looking back on that, though, now it's like, now I understand why we sold it, and I understand why that period in my life had to happen to get where I am today. So now we have another pest control company we started in 2019. But
well, congratulations, belated. What are a couple of those lessons you learned with the pest control company? I always love asking that because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If you can learn a lesson that someone else doesn't have to learn and pass it on to them, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So I think a main lesson that I learned is you as a leader of a business, you think it works to just put your head down and just grind, and people will follow by your example. You're leading by example. If you're just putting your head down and grinding, and they'll people will just fall in line and follow you. That's not what happens. You have to constantly pour energy into the system, and you pour energy into the group that you're leading. And then over time, those people will start to go to the next level, right? So you have to be out front. You have to be willing to pour into other people, which is very hard, and when it's something new to you, you have to be willing to learn about what's going on in their life and what makes them go. And you have to be willing to do that and succeed through other people. Once you learn to succeed through other people, things start happening in your life in a big way. And it took us a lot of years and a lot of stressful times and sleepless nights and a lot of those kind of things to figure that out. Good thing for me, I always had Kat, my wife, by my side to bounce things off of and to figure things out. But I think if you can figure out how to succeed through people, bring people into your world that can move the ball forward in a big way and create momentum. Once you do that and you create momentum, big things will happen, and you'll do things in your business that you never thought was possible. Like there's some numbers we're laying out there for next year in our business that are mind-boggling. The numbers, the amount of inspections we want to do and stuff like that, I would have never thought we'd got there. But it's the team. It's all about the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So so much good stuff to cover. I guess where I'm thinking the progression goes, and we'll cover some of it later. I got some notes for some more follow-up questions I got to ask. But
sure.
So where in the story do you get to the point where you hit IEB? And because I had met Rob at IEB, and I've heard you speak before, and there's just so many things I want to get into this podcast that I've heard you talk about. But so where is it that IEB enters the story, and where does that take you guys?
So first off, IEB is an absolute life changer. It's not only said by me, but it's said by a lot of people. So 2018, IEB came into play. Kat had seen some early IEB marketing on social media, stuff like that. And she was at an ASHI conference, I believe. And she sat down with Brian, and just had a conversation, and they got to know one another. And I think Greg was like, hey, why don't you come to the RGT we have coming up? And so Kat came home. She's like, we have to go to this. And I was like, why? And she's like, I don't know why. We just have to. I feel it, I feel it pulling me. I have to go. And so we made all the arrangements to go. And our kid is a ice hockey player. And a couple weeks prior to that, he got hit in a game and totally broke his wrist. It was all like bent every direction you could think of.
Yeah.
So he was lined up the day before to have surgery, the day before we were supposed to leave, or actually the day we were going to leave to have surgery. And we were like, I don't know that we're going to be able to go because he's going to have surgery and we're just going to dump, our kid onto my parents to take care of him, fresh off of a surgery. And we were thinking about canceling. And so they take him back. I guess they put him under anesthesia or whatever, and they were able to set the wrist back and they didn't have surgery. Wonderful. And he came out and he was fine. He came out and we're like, oh my gosh. So he didn't have to have surgery. So he's cool. And we left and we went to Houston and went to RGT. And so that's where the journey began with IEB. It's really helped us solidify a mindset of growth, a mindset of abundance, a mindset of succeeding through others, creating opportunity for others. That's what a lot of what we do now has become. It's become about our team and how far can we get our team in their lives? Like how much can we enrich their lives? How much impact can we have? How much influence can we have? Because we're going to look back on this whole thing in 20 years. We're not going to remember how much money we made. We're not going to remember the numbers we hit. We're going to remember the people along the way that we influenced. And we're going to remember, hey, I see that person over here. That person's a millionaire now. And that's because of the early influences we had and flipped the way they thought.
Yeah. So that's actually what I was thinking when you were just talking about how, years ago, you would have been shocked by the numbers you're doing now, right? I was thinking, all right, in 10 years, you're probably also going to be shocked of where you are from where you are now. So I guess my question coming off of IEB is, what were some of the first things you implemented from IEB that were able to just ratchet you up another level?
We came home from IEB. One of the first conversations I had was I went to a person that we were struggling with. She was a high producer, but we were struggling leading her. Mm-hmm. And I went back to her, and the first words out of my mouth to her was, "Hey, I'm sorry. I haven't been leading you the way that I should be leading you." Like, it was just an open, transparent conversation. And we learned from that point forward, if you're just transparent with people, they will follow you.
Yeah.
And we went and had those conversations that, hey, I haven't been leading you like I should have been leading you. I need to know more about you as a person. I need to know what you want in your life, because I want to help you get what you want in your life. And so we had those conversations with our key people and back at that time, and it really helped move us forward. And just very open, transparent conversations like, hey, I'm not the best leader in the whole world. I'm learning. I want to learn along with you. I want to figure this out along with you. I'm going to do everything I can to pour stuff into my head so it'll come out of me and help you guys grow as a leader. But I don't know all the answers, and I want to walk this out with you guys. So we did that. We came home. We really defined our vision, where we wanted this thing to go. And it's if you're somebody that can explain your vision with clarity to people and certainty, people will follow clarity and they'll follow certainty. So if you can do that with your vision, people will follow. And that's what you need. And then you just make your vision bigger and bigger and bigger. As you bring higher level people into your world, you make your vision bigger. So it'll encapsulate those people. Because once they get outside, their vision gets bigger than yours, you got a problem. You're going to lose that person. So we've changed our vision many a times. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. And we're fixing to get a little bit out there with the new vision that we've come up with. So those are some of the early things that we did coming home from RGT that kind of started us down the path. And the growth in the business from then is just been crazy. I think around that time we might have been doing 2.5 million, and this was like early 2019, and now we'll cross 10 million.
Wow. In
just a short amount of time. And it's
congratulations.
Not because we have a better sales IQ than anybody else. It's because we've learned to succeed through other people and build a team. And building a team is a strength of mine, and I've leaned into that strength and we build a team, we protect our team, we push them forward, we teach them things that have, we teach them financial awareness. We work on their financial education. We work on things like that has nothing to do with our business, but it has something to do with them. And that's what makes you go forward.
So you have where you are, where you want to be, and it sounds like to connect those dots, the steps in between, you need the people, the processes. You have to get it out of your head and have processes, like tangible processes, right? But I guess my next question here would be, how do you know who the right person is? Because I was just talking to an inspector yesterday who is a one-man shop. He's wearing all the hats right now. And if he wants to, hire someone, how does he know? How does he know that's the person or isn't the person?
Well, we do use behavioral assessments.
Mm-hmm.
That's one part to help. That's a tool to help you reduce the risk of bringing in the wrong person. So that's one tool, and then we just dive deep with people. Like we want to jump in. We want to learn about their history. Like tell us about from when you were in high school all the way to now. Like I want to know what drives you, and then I want to see an upward trajectory in their history. Like are they progressing in their life? Mm-hmm. Did they used to be the McDonald's cashier, now they're the cook, and now they're the manager, and so on. I want to see that, and if you can see that, I think you'll start to reduce the risk of bringing the wrong people into your life. And then you got to make sure they align with where you want to go. And that's super important.
Yeah.
To make sure they align with where you want to go. I think at the level we're at now, I'm looking for people with an entrepreneurial spirit is what I want. And I want somebody to come in and help us build. And I think when we were smaller, I don't know that isn't as important that what you're looking for, but I think now that's what we're looking for. But knowing that somebody is the right person is, you can't just do a 20-minute interview and expect to get the right person. You might get lucky. I don't know, but and we used to do that. I mean, and a lot of people do that. But you're going to have to find somebody that aligns with where you want to go as a company. You have to get them excited about where you're going as a company. I mean, basically you have to sell your vision, and you have to go out and you have to be able to explain it, like I said, with clarity and with certainty. You have to be able to draw it out on a whiteboard. Like, where are we going? Get somebody excited and then that want to jump in and help you build this thing. Because people will do it, and then you dive into them personally. Because a good leader makes people good at their jobs. A great leader makes people good at life. And I think if you kind of take that attitude with people, like, they'll stick with you and they'll help you build. Not all of them will. You will lose people. You will have turnover. It's part of the deal. But I think those steps, if I'm looking for the right person, I would kind of lean into those kind of things.
So how does that manifest, the helping someone be good at life? Is that, a focus on work-life balance, a focus on someone, as you said, like progressing? What's that manifest, or how?
So it's hey, it's the attitude of, hey, I don't want to see you. I don't want you to be in this company 30 years from now and you're ready to retire and there's just nothing. Like, you haven't grown as a person. You don't have any more money in the bank. I don't want to see that happen. And so it's like, how do I take this person from now until they retire and make them a better person, a better leader, and make them have the ability to be financially free? Like, how do you do that with somebody who works in your business? And that's a whole flip on a mindset of, I have an employee. How do I get that person to go out and work and earn and produce for the company? So the company makes money. And now it's like, how do I take that person from where they are now into where the best version of what they can be, and also teach them things along the way that have nothing to do with the success of the business, And so, we with our key people, we dive deep. Like, I want to know, like what how much do you owe people? Like, what's your debts? What are you struggling with? Do you want to lose weight? What's all that about? So we can start to know that person on a deeper level and help them with where they're struggling, and help them get better. A lot of people come to us. We're on a real kick right now, and giving our people a financial education, because people do not get that in school, and they have very low level of knowledge around basic financial, the flow of money and things like that. They have very low awareness of that. And so we're on a kick to teach our people that. and teach our people how to get on a path to being financially free at some point in their life. Because I could pay somebody 150 grand or 200 grand a year, and I don't know that it would make that much difference in their life if they don't do the right things.
Yeah.
And I could pay them that for 30 years, and they can get to the end of the line and have nothing. They might have a little bit of money in a savings somewhere, but that's not going to be enough to be financially free for the rest of their life. And I don't want that for our people. I think that's something that society teaches us to do, is get a good job and get a 401k and then you're going to be fine. I think that's bullshit.
So I want to speak to that, like the power that gives you in your business, right? So now if you're making sure people are taken care of and everything, all their ducks are in a row, when everything's clicking in someone's life, are they more productive? And like, what does that mean for your business? Is there just all that buy-in and they're ready to go every day?
I think so. I think it creates a culture of, hey, this company really cares about me as a person. Rob and Kat are spending time that they don't have to spend to educate me and to teach me things. Like we have, like this shirt right here. This is our leadership development program in-house. We have that. We spend our personal time on the evenings doing a leadership program for the people who want to show up and the people that want to swim towards us in that regard. Which is usually about 30% of the people in our company will show up. And those are the people that want to get better and, want to grow as a person, want to learn new things, want to stretch their comfort zone. We want to spend that time diving into those people, and you get some intangible benefits for stuff like that. Cause when we're teaching somebody something at 7:00 at night, guess who's in the background of that? Their spouse, their kids, those kind of things. And they're like, holy shit, your company is teaching you, how to generate passive income. Like, what's that about? I thought you guys were a home inspection company. They're teaching you that. So I think it goes a long way with building a culture and a community within the organization that'll move you faster, like faster than you can ever even think of. When you build that team that's hitting on all cylinders, it's crazy how fast things will go.
So building further faster, I want the audience to remember that, because we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor. But when we're back, we're going to get into that.
The home inspection industry is highly competitive, and you need an edge to stay on top. You certainly can't afford to give profit away for no reason. But what if I told you credit card processors may be overcharging you and robbing you of profits you've worked hard to earn? It's time to put an end to being overcharged for payment processing. It's time to take back your profits. That's why we put together a free report, How to Avoid Being Overcharged by Your Payment Processor. Head over to takebackyourprofits.com, download the report, and put an end to being overcharged for credit card processing. You've worked hard for your sales, and you deserve to keep it. What are you waiting for? Go to takebackyourprofits.com and download your report today.
All right, we are back with Rob Lemoine, owner of RIA. It's been a pleasure so far, but we're going to get into some nuts and bolts here, some amazing stuff moving forward. So Rob, we had talked about pushing forward and progressing. So one catism I've learned it is called is two steps forward and one step back, right? There are a lot of times you can hit a stumbling block. Not everything is going to progress smoothly and perfectly when you're running a business. You do have to learn lessons, and this happens when you're taking ideas and theories and implementing them and they become reality. So I guess my question here is, what are some of the stumbling blocks as you're growing at the point you are now and maybe in the very recent past? What are some of these stumbling blocks where you have taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and where you really learned a lot from that? And what's the power?
Yeah, so that's an important lesson to know, that the growth of your business, the growth of you personally, the growth of you as a leader, the growth of your leaders is not straight up, right? It's messy, right? It's messy. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. As soon as you think everything's hitting on all cylinders, one of your key people leaves, right? And that's happened to us. And and I said this from stage at the IEB, is like it totally guts you when you're pouring everything you have, your heart and soul, you're passionate about your business, and you think you have it going, and you get gutted, and somebody leaves you, and you have to pick up the pieces and move forward. And the way you overcome those kind of things is you have to fall in love with the process, right? So it can't be about the reward or whatever monetary thing, or whatever's at the end of this thing for all of us, or selling the business or whatever somebody wants to do. It's got to be the process. You have to love that process. You have to love the 2 steps forward to 1 step back, and know when you take that 1 step back, it's just part of what you signed up for. It's part of being an entrepreneur. Right, it's part of being a leader, and you have to explain that lesson to the people in your business, because they think that, hey, I'm moving forward like this, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm moving forward, and what's that about? And you explain, hey, it's messy. It's going to go up and down. It's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to do this, and then we're going to start bumping into growth ceilings along the way. And when you hit a growth ceiling, that's when you got to change your mindset. That's when you have to rethink and say, okay, I've always done it this way, but maybe I need to rethink that. If you fall in love with the way you've always done it, you're going to have a problem. And so, falling in love with the process of building a business, whatever that is. You're making hamburgers, you're doing home inspections, you're doing pest control, whatever it is, fall in love with the process. If you can do that, you'll survive all the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, And so things that, we've had in our past have felt like they were, death blows at the time and things like that. And we've gone through them all. We had a sales rep that was producing about $1 million a year for the company. Wow. She was a rock star, but she was an absolute cultural misfit in our company. She was poison in our company, and we had to let her go. And wow. It sucked, and we hemmed and hawed on it forever. We should have done it sooner, because doesn't matter what somebody produces. If they're not a cultural fit, it's a massive problem. And as you grow and you get bigger and you have other leaders and they see you allowing that to happen in your business, then they think, okay, what's Rob and Kat doing? They're allowing this person who we all know is an outlier. Why are they here? Yeah. Is it because they produce a lot? What's that about? So we had to let that person go. And, that was a step back. And, at the time that was a big deal, but looking back on it, that had to happen for us to get to where we are now.
Yeah. Wow. So
yeah.
We've talked about dissolving the ego and kind of like shucking that and letting it go. With the cultural fits, how hard is it to be honest with yourself in what your personality and culture is? Is that hard, or did you see it right away? What the company and your culture is?
Yeah, I think it's evolved over time, and I think what happens is your direct team. We have a leadership team. They slowly start to take on the personality of the leader. It takes time, but they slowly start to think like the leader thinks, and that over time is what you want. It sounds funny to say it, but you're teaching people how to think inside of your playground. I mean, that's what you're doing. Yeah. And it sounds funny to say that, but over time, if I'm a person that moves really, really fast, which I am, then the team will start to move really, really fast. Yeah. If I'm a person that sets aggressive goals, over time, they'll set aggressive goals. It just takes time. And so they'll start to take on the personality of the leader. Dirk says something, he says, speed of the leader, speed of the pack, and if you want to go fast as the leader, the team will eventually start to take on that persona and go faster. So we've seen that happen in our team. We've seen, over time, we've had people that have been with us a long, long time, and they show up differently than they did years ago, just because they've been around our culture and they know how we think. And culture definitely evolves over time, and culture is something that you have to be very intentional about. It doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional to have a good culture. You have to do certain things to generate that culture, generate that experience. You have to do that, or it just won't happen. Mm-hmm. And if you can generate a really good culture, the business will gain momentum, and momentum is hard to stop in a business. If you can get that, it's very hard to stop. And we like to just bring in, if we're bringing in a leadership level person, we want to bring in, something Dave Ramsey says. He says, don't try to motivate somebody, hire motivated people. So hire someone who's already motivated, and bring them into your world. You want somebody in your world that scares you a little bit, right? So you want somebody that pushes the envelope, that really does things at a fast pace that scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
That's what you got to have in your world if you want to go to the next level.
So you have that in your company, in your world, but are you able to get charged up by going to a mastermind like IEB and kind of translating that idea of these are the people that are going to push me, and this is where I'm going to learn other people's mistakes and the intangibles. Like we know the tangibles with like processes and cultural stuff and hiring that you learn in a mastermind, but are there intangibles there that you're able to pull out just being in that group and sharing ideas?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the most impactful things we do. Like I don't go to an IEB event or something like that so I can pull out some $1 million idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I go to share with our fellow companies and to collaborate. That's the future of what we're doing is collaboration and partnerships and things like that. And that's where you develop those relationships is in those type of events. I think you get around like-minded business people, there's like a synergy that happens. And you start to have conversations, and then maybe one little thing clicks in your mind, and it's this little tiny mindset shift. It's just a change of the dial a little bit that can push you forward. I mean, it could be a 1% change in the dial, and it pushes you forward massively. And that's what you get from those type of groups. But you have to go in with a mindset of abundance. You can't go in like, hey, I'm going to go into this group. I'm going to take all their strategies and tools and whatever they say from the stage and whatever they teach, I'm going to take it all, then I'm going to go implement it, and then I'm going to leave the group. You have to go in with, how am I going to add value to this group? How I'm going to share what I know, what I do in my business. I'm going to share that with my direct competitors, because that mindset of abundance, the people that are doing that in IEB are the ones that are growing the fastest. The people that are sharing with their direct biggest competitors are growing the fastest.
That's interesting that you say that, because we've had a bunch of guests on this show from IEB, whether it be Dirk, Mark, or a bunch of members of IEB. And one of the things that always sticks with me is that, you said this was a young industry when you started. I think it's still a very young industry and is not a zero-sum game. So I want to see what you think about that, about how a rising tide raises all ships that we've said on the show. What does getting everyone together in a mastermind group and talking with your competitors, what does that do for the industry? Does that maybe standardize inspections more? Does it help you increase your average ticket price? What is the benefit of that, of it not being a zero-sum game?
Yeah, I think it raises the overall professionalism of the industry. So we're let's say I'm in a market that doesn't typically have sewer scopes as a service, and I want to add that as a service to my business. The best way to actually do that is to go to all your competitors and say, hey, let me train you on how to do sewer scopes so you can offer sewer scopes too. And then all of a sudden, sewer scopes becomes a normality when somebody orders a home inspection, and then we all go up, right? And so it makes sense to collaborate with people around you and be like, hey, why don't we all do this together? Why don't we all come up with a new idea? Because we'll all rise, like you said, to the rising tide. I think there's enough people out there in this business that do not have that mindset. Let them be, and take the handful of people that do have that mindset and collaborate with them, even if it's your direct competitor. My biggest competitor in Atlanta, we have a really good relationship. Like we train each other's people. We talk through ideas. I would say that probably I've made $1 million, and so has he, from that relationship. And that relationship started when we both of us really had nothing. We weren't making any money. We had some very small businesses, and now we've grown these businesses and have fostered that relationship. And he is our biggest competitor. And so it's a weird thing to say for me to be like, hey, let me, you want to get into stucco inspections? Here, let me train your guy how to do it. It's a weird thing, but it's counterintuitive, but it works. Absolutely. Right? And you get around others that think that way. There, like I said, there's a synergy that develops, and things click in your brain, and then you're like, well, why don't I collaborate with this person and this person on this idea, and let's bring that idea to life. And it really works. And that's IEB just provides the platform for that. IEB is very member driven. Mm-hmm. The members carry the culture. The members did the teaching. It's very member driven. Dirk and Greg started that. They started the culture, and they do some teaching, but it's mostly member driven. Like, we had a call last night. There wasn't any IEB staff on the call, and it was, so it's a collaborative thing amongst people across the country, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's so empowering.
Yeah.
So we've talked through the progression of your business, some of the mindset and growth aspects. Now I want to talk about some of the buzzwords in the zeitgeist now. As you're tied into the home inspection industry, you're in this IEB mastermind. You have your finger on the pulse. What are some of the buzzwords now that people are focusing on? I know in May it might have been, all right, how do we pivot and deal with shortages and inventory or something like that? But what now should people be focused on, or what is the conversation focused on?
In my mind, the next level conversation is, how do we collaborate more? How do we partner more? How do we find the who's in our life that can move us further, faster? So how do we go find a home inspection company in another part of the country that doesn't offer something that you offer? And then how do we partner together to where I can move my service out to you, you can benefit, I can benefit, and we all get bigger? It's that conversation that I think is gonna start happening more and more, because we're all fighting time. We all want to build something big, impactful, get financially free, whatever it is, but we're running out of time, all of us. So how do we do it at a faster clip and keep up with the fast rate of change in the world, which, we can't really keep up with that because it's changing faster than it ever has before. But, I think finding the who, collaborating, and then moving your business and their business forward faster is I think that's a conversation that's kind of the next level of what we're talking about. And then within my own business, it's how do I create more opportunity for the people that are within? It's how do I start to take people that are in my company and give them let them scratch the entrepreneurial itch a little bit. Like, how do I do that? How do I loop them into a deal? How do I get into an investment with them? How do I teach them what it's like to own a business, inside of the vision umbrella? How do we do that? And how do we give them the things that those, like investments in businesses and getting cut in on deals, how do we give them those lessons and those opportunities? And that's a next level conversation that we're starting to have inside the business.
I love that. But you mentioned the vision umbrella. And I know that as you've had a vision, it's been blown up, and there's the next bigger vision and the next bigger vision. So now, what do you see as the future of the industry? Now, this could be a couple years out, 5 years out, whatever. But I know that, as you said, the rate of change is increasing. So I'm sure it's even the next level of vision will be even sooner than you can imagine. But what do you think is that next level, the future of the industry, the future of RIA?
The next level, I think, of home inspections is not home inspections at all. I think it's the auxiliary businesses that you can place around a home inspection company. I think that there could be a time and place in the future that we're actually doing home inspections for free. So we can gather that data, that lead source, and then we can put that into recurring revenue model businesses. So I think that's probably the future. There's a lot of things going on in the industry with major players coming into real estate and technology and things like that are changing the game a little bit. So I don't think we're sitting here 5-10 years from now talking about the same old home inspection, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I think we need to start looking at ways that we can capitalize on the data that we do have. We can build some other businesses, specifically recurring revenue model businesses. That's what's going to be the business that would be very sellable for somebody in the future, over what a home inspection company offers as far as sellability. If that's your end game, some people may want to pass the business on to their kids or to their employees or whatever. But I think that's the future, is starting to get out beyond, like, how can I do a better home inspection? I don't know that it's that. It's going to be, how do I build a bigger, stronger, better business that has auxiliary businesses and gives the people inside your business more opportunity. Like, if you want to have somebody that moves from your home inspection company over to the pest control company or over to the roofing company or whatever it is, I think that's the future.
Wow. So if you're, so I love this. I hadn't heard this from anyone in the industry before, and I think this is really cool idea of using a home inspection as like a loss leader service to get into the home. So you mentioned roofing and pest control. Are there any other like auxiliary services that you're thinking of? I don't want to give away the secret sauce here if this is your future, but I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what you said. So Wally Conway said it best last night. He said home inspection is the gateway drug to everything else. I've never heard that before. Yeah. So yeah, we have to start viewing it that way, I think, if we're going to survive long term. So anything home service related, if you look at home service businesses in general, they suck. Right? I mean, for the most part, they suck. They don't return calls. They have crappy technology. They write out work orders on a piece of paper. I mean, for the most part, they suck. There's several really good ones out there, but in general, they're not good. So I think there's an opening there and more and more people are willing to pay for home services. So anything that's related to that. So it could be roofing. It could be HVAC. HVAC is a recurring revenue model. Radon mitigation is what a lot of people do. Pest control is the big one. The pest control marriage with home inspection is it's perfect. It's a perfect marriage. It works really, really well. So we've been able to build 2 pest control companies without ever marketing to the general public. It's all based on home inspection leads. So that's a really good one. I think like a handyman type of service is a good one. People are opening up maid, like house cleaning type services. There's been talk about home automation. That's probably like the next level thing that's going to happen in homes is the home automation thing, and you have access to thousands and thousands of customers and past customers that own a home, and you open up a home automation business, you could sell that service to them. So those are some things. So in my mind right now, we step on the gas and grow a home inspection company as fast and as furious as we possibly can and get as much market share as we possibly can, and look at opening up other businesses around that in other parts of the country.
I love the fact that the home inspection business is the foundation of it, where you're creating this well-oiled machine that then it's just a logical progression from even where you started, where you're talking about Microsoft Access and inputting these business cards. You're taking all of this data and all this customer information and you're leveraging it. I think that's just, it's not surprising that this is where you're going with it, because it seems like a logical progression.
It is. We found this out in like 2008, like how if you build a process, like we started selling pest control service off of home inspection leads back in 2008, and it took us a good while to figure out and to get the bugs out of the process, but we built a process that works really, really well. And you can build a multi-million-dollar company fairly quickly if you have enough home inspection leads. And if you have an auxiliary company, it doesn't have to be your home inspection that sends leads to you. Why not go out and talk to all your buddies in the home inspection and say, hey, why don't you send these leads to me and I'll pay you $50 or $100, whatever it is, and I have that relationship with other home inspectors in the market. And so that's why you generate more leads into your auxiliary business to grow it faster. But it's all system and process related to be able to facilitate a lead through your home inspection company into another business. It's just all about systems and processes. And you could literally build a business out of nowhere that people don't even know where it came from because you didn't market it. You didn't put any billboards up or anything like that. You just gave value to the customers you already had. And people, these people are moving into a new house. They want these services.
Yeah. Why don't you give them to them? Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we got to get out of the mindset of how do I get technically better at what I do? How do I do better home inspections? I don't know that that's what the marketplace is going to want in several years. Of course, we got to do a solid, good home inspection. I'm not downplaying that, but I think we got to get away from like funneling everything into that and start thinking about the bigger picture here.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up bigger picture because, being tied into a community such as IEB and learning from them, you're doing so much here and you're thinking at such a high level that I'm wondering, are there other resources that you use to, kind of add to that? Like, are there books or podcasts that you're listening to kind of get this mindset of growth, to the next level? Are there any additional resources that our audience should take a look at?
Yeah. So I heard this one, I don't know, a couple years ago. It might have been Dirk actually that told me this. If you want to go forward, the first thing you do is you write a stop doing list. So instead of a to-do list, you write a stop doing list. Like, here's the crap that I'm gonna stop doing, and that's either holding you back or making you inefficient, or it's dragging your mindset down. So do a stop doing list, and then you also need to carve out time to actually work on the business, and that's hard for a lot of guys in this industry that are out in the field actually doing the work. It's very difficult. But if you could just carve out a couple hours to work on the business, you'll go forward a lot faster. And that's a hard thing to do, I know, for the guys that are out in the field. But a couple things that have been impactful lately to me is the podcast Think Like a CEO with Gary Keller. I think that has some really good nuggets in that. So I love that one. I love if you want to get like supercharged mindset and positivity, go to Ed Milet. His podcast is awesome. And then I would read everything you can get your hands on business-wise. I started reading business books way back in like 2005 or something, and I've read almost everything you can think of one way or another. But the thing with business books, people get caught up in like, hey, I have to read this thing cover to cover. Like, if you lose interest halfway through and you've got the gist, put it down and go to the next one.
Yeah.
And be okay with that. Like, you don't have to read them all, because a lot of books, it's the same idea over and over and over. So just put it down and go to the next one. So I like to read, I love Think and Grow Rich. And I've read that book many times. Another good one for me is Buy Then Build. It's about this idea of, instead of going out to another market and starting a business from scratch, it's, hey, why don't you look to acquire a business? It'll move you further, faster. And so it's just a different thought process. So you read books like that, even if you're not like looking to go out and acquire companies, or you're not in the position to do that. It makes you think differently, is what it does. And it makes you start to think about, well, how do I put together a deal? How do I structure a deal? Like, how do I have conversations with people that maybe in 5 years will do a deal? Because sometimes you have these conversations that you don't think are going to lead to anything, and over time they do, and it leads to $1 million partnership. So Buy Then Build is a good one. One that's important to me is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the John Maxwell book. I love the Law of Sacrifice, because I think a lot of people come into leadership and they think it's, now I've made it. I was a home inspector and now I'm in leadership role and I've made it and it's going to be easy. It's not. Leadership is sacrifice, and that law is it talks a lot about that, and it talks, it really helps. So when we bring a guy out of the field, we refer to that law, because they're like, hey, I was making this much money, now I'm only making this much money, and I'm technically in a higher role. Why am I making less money? It's the law of sacrifice, right? You're giving up some financial, some finances for the opportunity of a bigger future. And so you have to be aware of that. So that's a big one. Of course, E-Myth. If you haven't read E-Myth, you have to read the E-Myth.
I got it right up there.
Yeah, you definitely have to read that one. The Tribe of Millionaires is an impactful book. Wealth Can't Wait is a really impactful book. So, I can go on and on about a million different books, but those are things. But it really doesn't matter as long as you're inputting something. It doesn't, as long as you're inputting something that makes you think, or it might change, just tweak your mindset a little bit. Because if you want to be able to teach and lead your team, you have to input, quality stuff. You can't, whatever goes in you is what's going to come out. So,
yeah.
And I do go through lulls that I'm not inputting properly, and then, and Kat will get on to me and say, like, you don't have anything to teach because you're not inputting. You got shit going in, you're gonna have shit coming out.
I love that. So that just the books bring you back into that mindset when your mindset is shifted.
Yeah, it's amazing. So if I'm reading a book on acquisition, or I'm reading a book on finances, that's where my leadership starts to flow. That's the next thing I start to talk about with our leadership. So, your leadership flows to where your strongest thought is. That's where it goes. And so whatever you're inputting this is where your leadership's going to go. So you have to be very conscious of that, very conscious of who you're hanging around with. Like, your tribe or your 5 people, you have to be very conscious of that, to be very conscious of inputting negativity. The news, like, don't watch the news at all. Like, it's just don't watch it. There's no reason to watch it, and read books, because the most successful people in the world, they read. The best leaders read. I mean, it's a proven thing. And so read everything you can get, but don't feel like you got to finish it. Like, read it until you've got it, and then put it down and go to the next one. Like, consume as much as you can, is what I would say. And then listen to podcasts and listen to books while you're driving around. Don't waste that time on stupidity. Like, you're not going to get the time back. If you want to go forward in your life, like, don't waste the 2-hour drive to your inspection. Don't waste it. Use it to get better as a person and better as a leader, and that'll push your business forward. If you're not willing to grow as a leader, the business you're going to cap the business. You're going to be the lid. You're not going to go forward if you're not willing to grow and be transparent during your growth and tell your people, hey, I'm trying to grow too. I'm trying to learn. I'm going to make mistakes, just like you are. And it's okay, to do that, so.
Absolutely.
Those are some things. And then, I would say, don't feel like you have to follow all the rules all the time. We're definitely not rule following people or rule following company. So, so know the rules, but be willing to break the rules a little bit, as you build a company. And that's, you're not really remembered for the rules you follow. You're remembered for the rules you break. Right. And
that's how you break through ceilings, right?
That's how you do it. And so, don't get hung up on rules and doing everything by the book, and because that's not really what's going to push you to the next level. So, but,
I love that.
And then, you write out your vision. Like, it's powerful to, like, write it out on paper, not get it out of your head to where it can be clearly explained to somebody else. It sounds hokey for sure. And it sounds like, that's not something that's going to work, right? Nobody's going to care about it, but it works immensely if you can get people to buy in and go with you on that journey and on that vision. But you have to get it out of your head, and you have to get it to where it's clear and people can understand it and it makes sense and people can get excited about it. And then you have to be excited about it when you tell people about it. Like, you have to be able to sell it to people.
Yeah.
And
one thing I love is that, what do they say? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And if you have a big vision, that's the first step, right? Just getting it out of your head and onto paper.
Yeah. I have a saying, it's called always not waiting. And to me, that means, like, there's no perfect time to take that step. There's no, you're never going to have enough money. You're never going to have enough time. You're never going to have the right people. You just have to take action. You have to go. And life favors people that take action. Is what it does. Luck will come to people that take action. And so when in doubt, take action. And, and that's, even if it's not perfect, even if you're not ready to make the business move or the change, take action, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's how you go forward. There's nothing in our business that's perfect, but we are a company that takes action, and we're decisive, and we go. And it's worked out because luck starts to favor you. Momentum starts to favor you when that happens. And then your people, fortune favors the bold. So, and people start, your people in your business and your leadership teams, they start to come in with that attitude also. Hey, let's take action. Let's do this. Let's go. And over time, momentum builds. And like we said earlier, it's hard to stop.
Absolutely. So that is the perfect segue into my last question. I love to leave our audience with something actionable, something that they can turn this podcast off right away, something go and do and take the next step in their business. So that can be, writing your vision down, getting the stop doing now list, or what do you think someone turns off this podcast, wants to grow their home inspection company? What's the first thing they should go and do?
Couple of things. I would first figure out why you want to do that. Like, what does that mean to you to grow your home inspection business? Like, why? Are you doing it for money? Are you doing it for fame and fortune? what are you doing it for? You have to figure that part out, because that's what you're going to have to get other people to get on board with you. They know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
And it could be a number of reasons. So first figure out why, and then write your vision. And then start to lay out what is this company going to look like in 5 years? Like, lay out an organizational chart so you can get that right in your head. And so some weird things start to happen when you get those things laid out and you have that vision and that clarity. Like, you start to lean into that and you open up space in your mind, and the universe fills that space, right? So your subconscious starts working on those things, and all of a sudden people fall into your path, ideas fall into your path, opportunities fall into your path, because your subconscious is putting those things in your path. That's what's happening. And so you write those things out, you open the space in your mind and lean in, and the universe will fill the void. And that kind of thing has worked over and over and over in our business. That's one reason that, whenever I am lucky enough to do a presentation in front of 300 IEB people, I always say, this is how many inspections we're doing next year. I put it out in the universe, is what I do. It's, that's the reason I say that, because I want it out there, because now I'm leaning into that. I'm like, now I'm thinking like, hey, that's out in the universe. How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? It's all that question's always rolling around in my head. Who do I need to bring into my world? What opportunities do I need to develop to be able to do that? And I'm leaning into it. And subconsciously it starts to work in my favor. So those are some things for sure. And then, man, I would get if you're not in one of the inspection groups that are around the country, there's a few of them. I'm sure they're all great. I don't know about all of them, but get around like-minded people. Like, that will raise the level of the people you're hanging out with. All right. Get away from, going and having beers at 4:00 with your high school buddies. Like, get away from that. Get around like-minded people that will hold you accountable and raise your level. That's what it's going to take to go to the next level in your life and in your business. So, and Absolutely. Find somebody to chase. Find a company that's ahead of you and chase them. Yeah. Like, put it in your head that I'm going to beat those guys, and have friendly competition with them. Share your numbers with them. We do that with Sean Rossback. We always are kicking numbers back and forth. Like, how many did you do? How much money did the company make? Those kind of things. And, it's not, I don't really care if we beat them or not. I just want somebody to chase.
Yeah.
I
love it. So Sean will actually be on the podcast shortly to talk about that book we had mentioned, E-Myth. And I think maybe we'll have to have some friendly competition to see who gets more downloads on this podcast. But
I don't know. Sean's got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah. But no, this podcast was fantastic, Rob. Thank you so much for coming on and giving our audience, such high-level thinking. It's just a peek into your mind. Thank you for that.
It was fun, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Rob, for joining us. Thank you very much to our audience. Thank you for listening. And as I had said in the last episode, I wasn't kidding. We have a great roster of guests that we are going to be bringing to you shortly. Rob was one of them, and I cannot wait to bring you these fantastic ideas and help you grow your business and push your business forward. So again, thank you, Rob. We cannot thank you enough. And I'm going to have you back on this podcast.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right. So thank you. We'll see you next week, and keep tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Inspection Pro Joe podcast. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell so you won't miss our next episode. This episode was produced by Jake Aronson. This has been a Pair Payments production.